Now, the Namibia University of Science and Technology is hosting their first ever Namibia TVET conference under the theme Repositioning TVET as a driver for industrialization. The conference aims, amongst others, to deliberate, network and present diverse perspective, knowledge and expertise in the pursuit of best practices in the technical and vocational education and training sphere. The conference officially kicked off yesterday in the Namibian capital and will run until this coming Friday, the 27th day of October 2023. With more on the week-long engagement and its significance, we are delighted to be joined this morning by Dr. Christofina Junius, lecturer in the TVET department at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Good morning, Doctor, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning, Denver. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Great.
Doctor, before we get into the details of the conference and how it had come about, let's please unpack the status of TVET in this country. How would you rate the sector?
All right, thank you for that question. The status of TVET in Namibia, from my perspective, is that it's still perceived negatively. It is still viewed as a low status type of education or form of education. And this is something that is deeply rooted in the social stratification as a society. When we are grouped in terms of our socioeconomic status, in terms of our educational power, right? That is how we also stratify education, whereby academic is seen as the prestigious form of education compared to TVET. Right? Now, we reinforce that despite high advocacy of TVET in the country currently, and the flag is high, it's TVET up, it's TVET up, the practices still show that it's a low status form of education. And this is how we see it in terms of the people who pursue the academic route. They get the most prestigious jobs with high salaries. But how much do we pay our TVET graduates? Starting with the government. The flag is high, but if you go to the government salaries, how much are they paying the artisans? It's lower than those who pursued the academic route. In terms of funding, we are still funding TVET low. The budget is still low. So what are we saying? We are not doing what we are saying. We are still reinforcing, we are still saying it is an inferior.
What would you attribute that to? You have mentioned that the advocacy efforts regarding TVET have been increased. You have mentioned that notwithstanding the flag being high up, we're still witnessing a reinforcement of those stereotypes. What are you attributing that to?
It's the way we have classified ourselves. The social stratification that I talked of, right? We still categorize that. Even education, we view it, we still see a hierarchy in terms of education.
What are you doing as a NUST lecturer? What are you doing as a university? What are you doing as industry to see to it that that gets dismantled?
Currently at NUST, what we are doing teacher training, TVET teacher training, right? So we are, through our delivery, we teach people how to get rid of these stereotypes. But remember, it is a system. It is structural. If we have systemic challenges and systemic reinforcements that are rooted in the system, we are not achieving anything if there is only one part that is pushing. It needs a collective effort to really make sure that we get rid of these stereotypes together as a group.
Speaking about a collective effort, what do you make of the recent National Skills on Gudiva 2023 as an intervention to get to the bottom of this stereotype and see to it that the image that is portrayed gets altered?
That's the advocacy that I'm talking about. That's the high advocacy, right? But we still need to do research in terms of what is the impact of that advocacy. Because if we go to the sociology constituted within this, we go back, We have seen, for example, one thing that I can see is we have seen an increase in the enrollment rate for TVET, right? But when we go to the sociology of it, again, in terms of the hierarchy, who access that type of education? It's often people from low socioeconomic background. It's still people who are viewed as failure from the general basic education.
Thank you. Apart from the stereotype that, of course, has a devastating impact on the growth of the industry without a doubt, which are the other key challenges faced by this industry?
Right. So apart from the negative perception, we still have the challenges that are facing TVET generally in terms of developing countries. Namibia being a developed country, TVET still
developing country,
TVET still lacks the relevancy. You still have reports from industry saying it is not relevant. It's not giving us the attributes that we are looking for. The graduates are not having the right competencies that we are looking for.
That is a thorny issue. That certainly is without a doubt a bone of contention, because industry stakeholders are part of curriculum development. So how can I allege, if I help compile the curriculum, that what you are delivering as an institution of higher learning is not what I need, is not what I'm interested in, is not what will serve the market?
That is very interesting, because that talks to my research, actually, because that is what prompted me to actually do that research, because I was interested in knowing if we are inviting industry to develop this curriculum and we engage them at a number of stages throughout the curriculum development process. At the same time, the same industry comes to us and tell us what we are producing is not what we want. So what I've discovered is that the partnership is impaired. There are challenges that affect that partnership.
Which are those?
The challenges, for example, we have industry skills committees, right? That is the highest body that kind of endorses the curriculum. Now, the constitution of such industry committees poses challenges, because what happens is, for example, you have ISC members who are nominated, and most of the times are the the people who are occupying top positions in industry. Now, we found out that some of these people do not have the expertise in the trades or occupations that we are developing.
Sure.
For example, you develop a curriculum in welding, for example, and you take it to this committee, and then none of them in the committee has any background of metal fabrication.
That is very serious. How does it get addressed?
So my research...
And more importantly, perhaps, apart from your research, which you're also interested in, how does the conference, how does the summit seek to address some of these fundamental and systemic challenges?
You know, the conference is about sharing knowledge, right? It's about promoting research, right? People share their knowledge and their findings so that it informs the practice. So when research is done and then it informs the practices, the people are supposed to take the findings very seriously and improve the system.
Doctor, I wish we had an entire day, but we certainly don't want to preempt what is happening at the conference. Briefly take us through the highlights of yesterday, because we know that's when the conference started, and what is on the agenda for the rest of the week.
What happened yesterday was, in the morning we had an opening ceremony where the session was graced by the Deputy Minister, and then soon after that we had to go and view the prototypes. We are trying to promote design realization in TVET, because we are saying TVET as a vehicle for industrialization. We want, as Namibia, we want to move into the design. We want to come up with something. We want to manufacture something. So the VTCs were capacitated in terms of how to go about doing design research. So they came up with some prototypes. Yes, it's the first of its kind, but we are getting there, and I'm very much impressed with the prototypes. So
Can you mention one example, please, Doctor?
One example is, for example, the plow. The plow that makes use of solar that was designed at Nakayale Vocational Training Center. So it really shows that we are able it's within us. We really have the potential to do something.
And it works?
And it works.
So NUST has its own TVET department,
Yes.
and the VTC certainly also serve that very important purpose. Talk to us about the relationship between these institutions and how introducing a department such as TVET at NUST elevates the game to ultimately dismantle that perception that we spoke about initially.
Right. What I said earlier is that the department at NUST does TVET teacher training. We train the teachers who would teach at vocational training centers, right? So when it comes to research, for example, it is our department that is responsible to make sure that the people at the VTCs are capacitated to carry out research so that it informs the practices of the TVET systems. That's how we take it moving forward to take the sector high.
And that speaks to capacity. And we know in some disciplines, such as mechatronics, that is relatively new for this country, we have a problem with teachers.
Yes.
What does NUST's capacity look like, and how do you see to it that you build your own capacity so that you are able to teach the teachers?
Yes, we are moving into that. The plans are underway. We are moving into that to make sure that we have highly qualified teachers with high skills. For example, we are trying to introduce a bachelor degree honors in TVET. That is a combination of the educational part and the technical part. We are starting with hospitality, and hopefully by 2026 we will be having the hospitality TVET trainers having to enroll into that program, and then we are slowly going to phase in other trades, for example, the manufacturing, where the automotive also will fall in. But remember, currently the NUST department does not have the automotive engineering, but maybe as a country we are looking into that. But other trades like mechanical engineering, for example, the other trades, the TVET trades that fit into the mechanical engineering or into the electrical engineering can then go up so that we produce these highly skilled technical teachers, because competent teachers, it's one of the challenges that also TVET is facing.
Absolutely.
And that is how we are moving in that direction to make sure that we counteract that challenge.
Doctor, we can't have this conversation without speaking about the policy environment. And I do know that Dr. Raimo Nanda, the Deputy Executive Director in the Ministry of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, is very excited about the brand new TVET policy. And we know that it took a bit of time to get to that stage. But what do you make of this recently launched TVET policy and the manner in which it ensures that we are in a good trajectory?
I like the revised policy. The revised policy talks about promoting research that has been an undervalued, for example, aspect in TVET. Because of the perception of TVET, it has affected every other aspect, including research, and the revised policy kind of has a component that specifically focuses on research, and this is why we are seeing this conference happening. It is a result of the implementation of that policy. And the policy also positions the agencies or the stakeholders to do their role and play their part. And we have a partner, GIZ, which is really seeing to it that we implement most of the critical things that are outlined in that policy.
Thank you so much. Doctor, as we round up our conversation this morning, we can't only be workshopping our problems. Certainly there are best practices that we are following. Could you briefly touch on those?
Yes. Best practices, for example, to improve the relevancy and the quality of TVET is, literature tells us collaboration. But as we talked earlier, that collaboration has to be done right.
Smart partnerships.
Yes, smart partnerships, right? We need also to do flexible curricula. Currently, yes, we have curricula, we review or update our curriculum after 5 years. Or sometimes we do 3 years if we see there are changes in industry. But that is still a bit rigid. We need to do flexible curricula, as when something comes up in industry, new things, we should be able to update regularly. So that means we also have to change our procedures and processes, because that is not just easy to do, because we have NQA, which is a body there, and they are procedures for you to get it registered and approved. It's a long process. So we need to make some adjustments to accommodate the issue of flexible curriculum. We also have to make sure that our curricula is aligned to the national goals. It's not only, let's not just focus on one source of curriculum. We have to look at the source, all the sources of curricula to make sure that it addresses what it's supposed to address. And the last one, I think we also need to look at the regional and international perspective, because the world is becoming a global village.
It has been.
We are not training for Namibia. We are training for the world.
As far as welding is concerned, recently I heard the statement that Namibians are very good welders, but we've reached the ceiling in terms of how far we're stretching ourselves in terms of capacity. In terms of the industrialization agenda, in terms of what we need for our green hydrogen ideals, we'll have to up our welding game specifically in order to be playing and punching in that weight bracket. Is that also your take?
Yes. So we need to have labor market information. It's the labor market information that informs us, where are we? Are we saturated in this area? What do we need to do?
And saturated might mean on this level.
Yeah.
And that we need to up our game in that field.
Yes.
Yeah. Doctor, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Thank you for your passion. Good luck with the rest of the week, and may the conference yield the desired results.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Christofina Junius, she is a lecturer at the Department of TVET at the Namibia University of Science and Technology, talking to us about a conference that the NUST is hosting that is currently underway.